You're back.
I think I got cut off.
Yeah,
I will admit I do like the new intro music. I think it's pretty snappy.
that's an upgrade.
It is
I
an
keep
upgrade.
meaning, yeah, I do what I can when I can, and then I every week I swear it's always the same. If I worked that week by Friday, I spend the evening kind of starting to think about maybe ideas about what I'm doing for time I have on the weekend. And I wake up Saturday morning and I'm just starting to catch up when it's really time to go. And I'm still recovering from fiat land and I'm not up to speed on what just happened this week in the world of Bitcoin. Even as I try to keep up, I just am like in transition. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
this channel, I'll make little improvements and then I'll be like, oh, I need to do that. Yeah, I really should promote that. Oh, I could improve that. And after we do this podcast Saturday, sometimes on Sunday, I dig into that again. And then by
Oh.
Monday, it's just back to like, hey, did you hear about the latest dramatic crisis that don't really matter about much?
Yep.
Oh, tell me more.
Hi ho. Hi ho. It's off to work week. Yeah, it's fuck fiat world, dude. Like I just fucking hate it. Join the chat. I can't join the chat because it wants me to sign in with my YouTube or something. Whatever. I'll keep it in. I'll keep it in comments. Let's see if anybody shows up today. Is Travis coming? Did you reach out to him?
I haven't heard from Travis. He may or may not join us. Paula was aiming to join us, but I think she's actually kind of busy.
Oh yeah.
And she still kind of works in fiat herself. Like,
oh really?
Weekday or when she can, or has.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
She's super nice. Have you been on her pod yet?
I have not, but I've watched hers, and I watched yours on hers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was I actually we could talk about that, but because was it her who towards the end she kind of got into the spirit, how Bitcoin moved you in a spiritual way, which I titled this episode "Know Thyself" because it's something you actually presented this question to me, which not that I haven't thought about it, but I have to stop and think about it sometimes, especially when when my world is more framed around Bitcoin ideas. I'm in Seattle right now. I lived here for years. I moved away, haven't been back here for like 25 years. There you go, Seattle Mariners. We're going to a baseball game tomorrow. And so I was trouncing around, just driving around a couple of places I used to visit and live and hang out. And it hit me like what kind of person I was back then when I was 20 years old. No, 22 years old. And who I thought I was then. and how sure I was about a lot of things in my world and how wrong I was in so many ways. And I'm here now looking at it with that perspective going, I enjoyed a lot about this. And I also was so naive to so many things. Am I still like I don't I've made improvement. I have wisdom, but I have to stop and think like, do I still know who I am now? Maybe I know myself more. But you've had these thoughts.
Well, dude, I can share with absolute clarity that when I was 22 years old, I was a complete psychopath, right? Like, I mean, I probably diagnosable, And I had this thought the other morning. I kind of woke up and like there's something about like I'll wake up at 5 a.m. and go, oh, here's like my brilliant tweet of the day or whatever, and then I'll just jot something down, and half the time I don't post it anyway. But as I was sort of sitting there reflecting on it, like, and it was partly the tweet I put out the other day that was like, if the inability to, or like, what did I say? I can't even fucking remember now. It was something about like, let me see my profile because I only do like 3 tweets a day or 3 tweets a day.
Like self-reflection kind of.
Oh yeah, sensitivity of feedback is negatively correlated with success in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered I wrote that because like when I was 22, the follow-on I was going to put to that was like people that are successful are either egomaniacal bullies that get lucky, or they are people that have the ability to accept feedback. But there's no middle ground, right? Like there's no people that can't accept feedback and become successful, but don't just bully people into accepting their blind spot, right? And I think I was one of those bullies. Like I was one of those people that would just bully people into accepting my fucking delusions, you know. And
Mhm.
but the thing is that you also have to be able to deliver, right? Like you can bully your way through being, immune to feedback, but you also have to be able to perform on some level, right? And so
Mhm.
the places where I wasn't performant, I would get shuffled off pretty quick. The thing I realized is like everybody but me could see my shortcomings, and that was the problem, right? Like everybody could see right through every little insecurity I had, every little like blustery response I had, and they could tell if I was getting triggered just by the way I'd react, right? Like they go, "Hey man, you might consider doing, like you're threading that tape. I know what I'm doing." Blah, 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 blah. They go like, "Oh, you can't accept feedback. Okay, I'll just let you live in your delusions because it's so much easier to deal with people like me when it's just like, yeah, just let them do whatever the fuck he wants. Like they don't care. It doesn't affect them at all, right? But what it relegated me to was about a 15-year span of like my entire reality occurred between my ears. Like I was not interacting with the world realistically. I was only interacting with the world based on my delusional beliefs and my abilities and who I think I am and all this kind of stuff. But it was all, rooted in like we were talking about a couple weeks ago. It's like it's all trauma and protecting yourself from trauma, protecting yourself from harm, and they're maladaptive strategies, right? But
Yeah. And when you're young, you're inherently, you don't have the confidence based on experience yet. You're probably a little insecure and you want to protect that. You want to protect your ego so you can armor up or deflect back. And um, yeah, you go ahead.
no, it's
I
fine.
relate. I relate.
Yeah, well, I mean, but as an adult, like it's the hardest thing in the world for me was that moment when I was like, oh, I'm not any of these things that I think, right? Like I used to walk around going like thinking I was some sort of tough guy, And speaking of 22, it was right around 22. Like I've been in like a few fist fights in like middle school and high school, but fist fights are, like it was generally me being some sort of fucking asshole and some guy getting pissed about it, and then me feeling like a victim because he was lashing out, right? And so and it's not like I was some sort of skilled fighter. I knew anything about fighting. And so there's a term for it in prison. It's called selling wolf tickets, right? Where you walk around and go, hey, what are you fucking, blah, 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 like you're puffed up and thinking you're all badass. But the second the fists start flying, like you're incompetent, right? And I didn't realize how incompetent I was at fighting.
Mm.
And so these guys were actually starting something with me. Like I legitimately, for once in my life, wasn't like the instigator of something. These guys were mouthing off. And I got out of the car and I was like, what's the problem? Blah, blah, blah. And thinking I'm all tough guy. And then I got the living shit beat out of me, dude. Like I got my teeth kicked in. I got ganged up on by the thing was there's these three kind of kids. They're probably 17, 18 years old. I was 21, 22, somewhere around there. But what I didn't realize is they had like an entire parking lot full of friends right across the street that I didn't see. So
Mm.
I'm sitting there sort of lipping off to these guys. They're lipping off to me. And then one of them tried to kick me. And I just sort of jumped in the fray and started swinging at him, right? But what I didn't realize is when I looked up, because they were kind of all three of them sort of pounced on me. My buddy jumped out and tried to help me. But I looked up and my friend was off duking it out with one of these kids in the parking lot. And all I see is like this crowd of like 15, 20 people just charging me. And I was just like,
Uh-oh.
oh, I literally froze, dude. Like I ran out of tools in my toolbox, right? Because I go, oh, I've never been approached by an angry mob before. I don't know what to do here. And some people have a natural inclination to go, oh, this is a good time to fucking run. I had the natural inclination to go, oh, this is a good time to cover up. And then I just got fucking slammed by these guys, right? I mean, they just absolutely
Mm.
beat the living shit out of me. I ended up in the hospital. So, but it was a stark lesson. The problem was I didn't take the lesson. I didn't take the lesson as like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be going around getting in fist fights. I shouldn't be going around blustering like I'm some sort of tough guy. I took it as like I need to armor up more, like I need to learn how to fight. I need to learn how to do it. It's just like the complete opposite reaction of what needed to occur was some self-reflection.
Mm.
And instead it became like more of, digging into my ego. So I don't
Yeah.
know, man. It's such a sticky wicket to try and uncork some of that stuff. But it wasn't until I was like 35 where I just went, oh, I don't know any of this shit. Like, Everything I think about myself is a lie. I need to start from first principles and figure out who I am. And that was a catastrophic experience. It took like 10 or 15 years to overcome that reset, that sort of ego reset, and actually become a real person. So I don't know. I don't recommend it to anybody. Sometimes it's better to just live in the matrix and live in the reality between your ears. But for me, I
Yeah.
go, my life now is, I think, a lot healthier from the experience. It just sucked for the last 15 years.
Having like ego death experiences, it sounds harsh and it's hard, and perhaps it's better to experience those a little bit as bumps on the path along the way instead of just riding on it like I'm fine, and then having a huge crushing one where you're really maybe drifting. But variously, I think whether it's gradually or suddenly, it's like important work to be doing, whether that's an ego psychological level or some kind of a spiritual level. I've been there. I was rarely ever like in a real fight, but my defense was to generally I was kind of the avoid and retreat type.
Mm,
My aggressiveness would be more of like kind of a passive aggressiveness.
mm,
Um, but going through life, I would well, so sometimes I wouldn't be aware of what how I was at times, but then I'd see things in my as I was more of like a manager, I'd see things in my employees that would get to me, and I'd be like, I just need you to make like you talk about listening. Listening is so key in terms of communication and like, do we understand what's going on here? And so something happens, a mistake or whatever, not a big deal, and I'd point it out to say an employee, and oftentimes when they were younger, it'd be well, here's why. And I'm like, okay, well, that's okay, I understand. So I just want to make sure we know how to do it. Yeah, yeah, but this happened,
right.
and then or well, I was thinking this and I was thinking that, and that's why I did it and all this stuff. And it's like that's okay, you're okay. But I mean, from experience, I my experience is that like unless I kind of hear from you that you understand what needs to change, I don't trust necessarily that this isn't going to happen again and again. And there's always going to be another excuse. Well,
Right.
but yes, but yeah, but yes, but so anyway, I'd have interactions with my staff, my employees, or sometimes peers like that, and I'd realize, I do this sometimes too. Um, um, my own ego grapples with like not wanting to be wrong, um, like or like a kid, it's like, fine, it won't happen again, and you're
Right.
like, okay,
All right. But do
yeah,
you know why we're having this discussion?
yeah,
It won't
change
happen
is hard.
again. Why are you bullying me?
Losing a fight is probably a real good way to confront that directly because you're impacted physically
Mm,
and you have to stop as you maybe heal from injury to go, what just happened? How did
yeah.
that happen? Who am I?
Well, that was the scary thing about it is it didn't fix my ego, right? Like I still had it. It was just made me more traumatized, right? So it sort of entrenched the ongoing problem even more. It made me feel like more of a victim in all interactions. It made me more hostile. It made me more aggressive. So it was problematic on a number of fronts. But similar to you, like I would have interactions with people, and now when I look back on it, I go, man, people were giving me some really gentle feedback, and I would just like shut them down. I'd be like, and it wouldn't even necessarily be aggressive. I would just reasons, excuses, no accountability, right? And it almost didn't matter what the feedback was. I think you're tying your shoes wrong. Well, I've been tying my shoes for. I only did this because I was like, my fucking whatever. My friend in sixth grade taught me how to tie my shoes this way, and that's why I do that. Nothing to do, like no accountability about like, hey, maybe there's a better way to do that. Right? Like I just couldn't hear it, couldn't do it, couldn't accept it. And so like when I started talking, I've talked to people throughout the years, and I go like, there's this sort of radical acceptance thing that I adopted when I was
Mm-hmm.
35,
I've heard of that. Mm-hmm.
where I just kind of, and people like, I think the hippies misinterpret it to like radically accept who someone is without ever addressing themselves. I radically accepted the other direction where I go, whatever you're saying is probably a valid feedback. And what I learned was like hostile feedback is the most sincere feedback you're ever going to get. And like, and I'll say this to people all the time. Like I used to say it in the jail, I used to say it in the prison. I used to like go, hey, you know, if someone's calling you an asshole, that's amazing. You should be thanking them for calling you an asshole. And almost universally, everyone goes, well, I'm not an asshole. No one's going to call me an asshole. I'd be, what? I'm supposed to just accept I'm an asshole? And I go, yeah, because chances are good you're being an asshole. You know, like, so, and people just can't, they just cannot stomach the possibility, even the remotest possibility that they're somehow in the wrong if someone's calling them an asshole. Their immediate reaction is like, well, no one's going to call me that and blah, 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 blah. And I go, dude, it is sincere feedback. It is sincere. This person is looking at you in the eye and going, I don't like your behavior, so much so that I'm willing to risk physical confrontation by telling you what exactly I think about you. And I go, man, that's such a valuable thing. If you can just take a moment and go, okay, why am I being an asshole? And if you can just adopt a perspective, someone else's perspective, the cornerstone of empathy, and go, oh, okay, I can see why all the things I'm doing are asshole-ish to you. And
Right.
if someone were doing that to me, I'd probably think they were an asshole too. So maybe I'm being an asshole. Sure.
Right.
And then it suddenly changes everything because suddenly the feedback goes from you're not going to call me that, you're not going to do this to me, which can lead to death. I mean, like pushed far enough, you can get killed for trying to defend your ego. That's why all these gang members are fucking dangerous. It's not because they're kung fu expert fighters or something. It's because they're willing to die for their ego. They're willing to stand there and go, you're not going to get away with that. I'm going to fucking blah, 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 blah. And they'll die over it, right? But I think there's a lot of people that aren't running in gangs that are in the same boat. They'll get out of their car. They'll fight people in the street. They'll fucking, you fucking asshole, this, that, and the other thing. They'll literally risk their lives to defend, I'm not an asshole. And it's like, dude, is that worth killing or dying over? I'm not an asshole. Like, let's think about this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
But the second one can just step back and go, yeah, okay, well, I see why. Yeah, I can see that. I'm really sorry. I didn't realize I was being that way. Like, it just diffuses everything. Like, it just goes away. And it gives you valuable feedback. It gives you a way to correct your behavioral course. It makes you a more effective human being in terms of talking to other people and going, okay, I see why you think that. You think I'm overbearing. You think I'm not listening. You think I'm a douchebag. You think I'm a fucking jackass. You think I'm a greedy person. Just whatever negative thing. If you can just stop and go, okay, well, I can accept that, right? Because chances are good at some point in your life you've been all of those things. Not you, but everybody, right? Everyone has done something that's greedy, something that's untoward. They've been an asshole to somebody. They've said something they regret. All these kind of things, right? So if you can just accept that you're probably doing it in that moment, and at the very least, this person is perceiving you doing that, then you can smooth out a lot of life. But the second, what I learned from that whole thing was the second I enabled that, when I turned that switch on in my brain, and people said, "Hey, you're a fucking moron," I go, "Oh, thank you. Like, I get it. I get why you think that. Yeah, I'll work on that." They were far more willing to give me more feedback in the future, which helped improve me as a human being. I go, oh, now I can accept feedback. And then I can start discerning which feedback is valuable, which feedback is maybe malicious, which feedback is this, which feedback is that. But until you accept it, you can't develop a filter for it, right?
Yeah.
If you just filter it all, filter, I'm already drifting into the minefield. But if you just filter all feedback, then you'll never get valid feedback. You'll never know what valid feedback is, right? So you just end up, at least for me, I ended up living in the space between my ears, and that's what my reality looked like. But I had no understanding of why people didn't like me, or why people would try and avoid me, or why people would interact with me in a weird way, or why, because I was immune to feedback. And the second I became vulnerable to feedback, it fundamentally transformed my life for the positive. So that's
Yeah.
my story.
And being able to sort of like the the exercises they'll have couples do where you do the reflective listening thing, and it seems so kindergarten, and you're like, okay, I'm going to repeat what you just said, and then you realize, patronizing as it feels, it's like, wait, um separating like whether or not that person is necessarily right or wrong. Can you take it in and then interact with it and manage your response in a way that they are being heard actually, instead of you, filtering, maybe being stuck in, yeah, but, well, no, here's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And what I'm trying to say is what we're talking about, and you're not listening.
Right.
Working in professions that we've had where, and that I have, where say you're a cop or you're in the justice system world or whatever, and you get a lot of feedback sometimes from people where you know exactly where they're coming from and why, oftentimes, or you think you do.
You think you do. Yeah.
You think you do. And so you get a lot of sometimes harsh feedback, or as soon as you walk in the block and it's like, eh, and you know what's coming and you know where it's coming from, you think. And so you can put up that wall or put it in a box, in a frame, and then your authority or your uniform or your communication is, and maybe you got shit to do and you're not here to like talk about it. You're getting done, you're moving on, next one. And then you go home. So you're used to, you're being right. And even if you're working with people and you're listening, it's all pretty in a controlled situation, and you are ultimately in charge. And then you go home.
You think?
Well, maybe, yeah, depending on the environment you're in, really. I mean, I guess, some blocks are run.
There's a lot more of them than you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you are operating at the benefit of a crowd. So then you go home and you're in this mode, this mental mode sometimes of like, gonna fix the problem. Oh, you got something to say? Okay, I'm gonna answer it. I've got the answers. I'm the fixer. I've been a hero all day. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna continue to just, don't need to hear everything about it. And if there's a problem, let's fix it, move on. And it's a shift to make. I think it's hard for cops, law enforcement generally, where you don't listen the same, or when you're communicating, it's a little extra than what you think it is, and it's a hard shift to make. It causes a lot of troubled relationships, I think, because you're not listening, or you're not just accepting it, processing it, not overtly judging it, but making sure that the person is being heard. And then maybe there's a foundation from which to talk about it, and maybe not even necessarily fix it, but connect, relate.
Well, I mean, I can say with absolute clarity, I would watch people interact with the inmates daily, and I just go, you literally didn't hear a word they said. Like, and I watch cops on those videos, they're literally just not listening, right? But even in training, when I was in the basic corrections course, like, I remember there was an instructor and I just asked a question and he got all beefed up and fucking pissy with me. I already answered that. I go, well, you didn't really answer it. Like, I'm asking this. He goes, look, this is the end of that discussion. We're done here, blah, 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 And he put this like prison guard fucking routine on me. And I was just like, oh, you don't have an answer and your ego won't let you say that. Huh. Interesting. That's interesting information for me to get from you. But then I watch cops get tripped up on this shit all the time because they just feel like I have to have an answer. I'm the authority here, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, but you're not. You're a fucking person. Your badge doesn't give you any special fucking powers of observation. What it does give you is legal authority to use force, and that's about it. So if you need to be doing everything you possibly can to avoid getting there first. And the easiest path to that is to actually listen to what people are saying. And so, like, I hear what you're saying 100% because I watch people do that all the time. They just walk in and go, I'm just moving on. Oh, I can't fix this right now. Blah, But like my friend nearly got murdered because of that attitude. I mean, he got slashed bad. And the guy told all the prison staff, like, hey, anybody disrespects me, I'm going to do this. And that's a very clear sign of disrespect. If you don't listen to what somebody's saying, if you just dismiss it, if you just walk off, most people, because they're in a prison environment, won't act on that, or they will act out on it. They'll yell at you, call you names, give you all sorts of bad feedback. But this guy was very serious about, like, I'm not going to tolerate that. And he didn't tolerate it. He slashed my friend right down the side of his face, nearly cut his throat, like wrecked him, dude. I mean, he ended up with 60 stitches across his throat and his face. So when I talk about like listening and being, dropping the ego and stuff like that, like I'm coming from it. Like I feel very fortunate that I had that shift when I was 35, and then by the time I got to the prison system, I was already able to implement it, right? Because had I gone in with that other attitude, I probably would have got wrecked. But I saw a lot of people end up in use of force situations, questionable use of force situations, all sorts of conflict, all sorts of hassle, all sorts of fights, just because they can't listen to somebody who's expressing something very clearly because they feel like they're in charge. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. But for me, like, I found I didn't have that transition phase that you were just discussing. Like I literally didn't, because it was the same skill set that I brought into the prison as that I took out with me. It's just like sit there and go, like, empty my brain, turn off my fucking little thought process, turn off my idea of like, oh, I know where they're coming from, I know what they're trying to say, blah blah blah, and then just talking over them. Like I would just go, okay, what are they saying? And on some levels, it's very frustrating for people who aren't accustomed to it because they don't even realize what they're saying most of the time, right? They're just like motor mouthing, and they're but you can trip people up pretty easily just by listening to them, because they're telling you exactly what they think and what they feel and what they believe, right? So oftentimes when you repeat that back to them, they're just like, oh well, but I didn't mean that. Well, that's what you said, so I'm not sure what to do now, because you told me this thing and now you're saying that's not what you mean. What do you mean? Well, what I'm trying to say, okay, so what you're really saying is this. Well, no, because that makes me look bad, so I want to say this instead. Okay, so you're saying this. Well, that's but they can't do that's not what I said. That's not They can't reroute you because you're just saying exactly what they just told you. And oftentimes what they just said sounds preposterous when they hear it back, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the sort of cornerstone of like that navigating a very dangerous environment potentially. Like I said, my friend nearly got murdered just for not listening, right? So, but that was the other thing, is like my experience in the prison was very very different than every other officer. Like I would walk around and people were happy to see me and they were friendly with me, and I was still enforcing the rules, right? Like it's not like I was just going around being permissive. And that's what I would see officers do, is they would either become like ticket writers and they would just sit there and hammer fuck everybody, or they would just become permissive and just let whatever go because they didn't know how to communicate with people on both sides, right? So there's this like neat little path in between where you actually listen to people's problems, deal with them, and then constructively redirect them towards a desired outcome, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
can't do that without hearing them first. And if there's any moment in that discussion where you're like, ah, I know what this person's saying already, you're already on you're already in a pickle between first and second base, and you're about to get picked off. So I
And
don't know,
it's
man. It's tough.
it's tough when yeah, when in those kinds of environments too. There's times when it's like, I don't like this person, or I know a lot about where they're coming from, or they have a history with something, and so you judge it. You may not respect them, but can you still have rapport?
Yeah.
And like relationships being primary, whether they all deserve it or not, it's having that rapport, and it takes patience. So like establishing rapport or having some kind of relationship, it takes time and it takes patience. And there's times when, when you have a certain job to do and you've seen something 100 times and now you're seeing it again, and it's like, oh, here we go, it's another one of these, and you just want to get through it. But that person, as we all do, they want validation, they want to be heard. And so when they're repeating themselves or whatever, and they're not feeling heard, or you can't just fix it the way they want it, and you have to like, patience is such a virtue in these types of in this skill set, because it does take time, the listening, the thinking about that, the letting go of like having control now. And um and so yeah, it when I so it's patience, and then I think about time preference, and I think about people who maybe they've done a lot of personal work, and like, so you're a normal person and you've come to kind of know yourself, as I've reflected upon being in Seattle right now and remembering my life as it was, and that I was going places, man. I had goals. I was growing up and doing good stuff. And I comparing my life to how I was then, a lot that changed it was Bitcoin. So I came to know myself, and so a person could very well know themselves, and then they start to get their incentives and their minds shifted steadily or tremendously from Bitcoin. And I find myself, and I would think to see it in others where they're going through this shift, and man, the emotions they come back at you like, man, this hits me in funny ways, unexpected ways, where I thought I had stuff figured out for reasons, and now I'm reevaluating some deep things, including myself. And again, kind of like ego death capital or something. It's experiencing that again.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where you're starting either a continued sideways journey in another direction, or you're kind of reeled back and reconciling, like, wait, who am I again? So Bitcoin adds another challenge to you to say you thought you knew how the world worked, and little did you know you took the red pill, the
Yeah.
orange pill,
Yeah, exactly.
and off you go some more. So
For sure. Well, that's one of the neat things about Bitcoin. And the thing is like what I see a lot of Bitcoiners do is they get to a place where they go, okay, now I've got to figure it out, right? Like I think people are always striving towards a control point, right? Like they go, I need to get to a place where I can feel in control. And I think it's a natural sort of habit, right? To feel like you have some sort of control over what's going on around you, or, because otherwise it's very chaotic and can be very scary, right? Life can be scary, and it's a source of great anxiety for, I think, for a lot of people. Uh, what So with Bitcoin, there's like this sense of like, okay, I'm now in control of like my money or this or that, the other thing, and what they end up pulling short of like what the actual revelation is. And part of the problem with fiat, and especially the fiat system that both of us grew up in, is that it's been slowly cultivating us to be farm animals. I mean, we are being harvested, and just like in the Matrix or whatever. And so people, when they think about life or who they are or all these kind of things, they've all been grossly influenced by fiat shenanigans. And those fiat shenanigans are designed with the solitary purpose of extracting value from you, right? So if like you'll see people that say things like, "Oh, I'm a Ford guy, I'm a Chevy guy, I'm a truck guy, I'm a rock and roll guy, I'm a disco guy, I'm a this that." They identify with their consumption, right? And that is a huge, 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 huge problem, because if any part of your personality or who you are as a human being is tied to the things you buy and own, then you're already on the hamster wheel, and it's really hard to break free from that. And that was the thing I think that drove me more than getting my ass kicked, was losing everything, was the sort of bigger catalyst when I was in that moment of going like, oh, right as I was coming to terms with the idea like, hey, all of my social behavioral aspects are corrupt. They've been corrupted by early influence, and I need to fix that now. Shortly after that, the rest of my identity, which was tied into like, I'm a guy that gets a new BMW every year. I'm a guy that's got a big library of books. I'm the kind of guy that has this kind of game system. I'm the kind of guy that has all the new tech gadgets. I'm the kind of guy who does, I'm the kind of guy, I'm the kind of guy, I'm the kind of guy. And then you go, okay, well, what happens when that kind of guy is gone because all that shit disappeared because the fucking fiat rug got pulled out from under you? You go, oh, I'm the kind of guy that, well, I used to be a guy that drove a new BMW every year, but I don't have that anymore. And I used to be a kind of guy that really wanted an American Express black card. Like I thought that would be an accomplishment, but that's not going to happen now. I'm the kind of guy that likes to, I don't know, fuck, right?
right,
And that was sort of the big thing.
yeah,
But it also made me realize like just how much weight fiat puts around your shoulders. Like it's a self-imposed yoke, like the most profound thought I had during that whole period, and it probably sound pretty benign right now, but for me, in my state of mind at that time, I went, all of that shit that I carried with me everywhere I went. Yes, it was stored in my house in California. Yes, it was in the garage. Yes, it was stuff here. Yes, it was stuff there. Yes, it had a place to sit, but the weight of it was always around my neck. And the second that weight got lifted, I went, oh, wow. Oh, those were the chains that were binding me, not anything but my desire to acquire more junk, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
which is ultimately what resource extraction in a capitalist economy or pseudo-capitalist, managed economy like we have, is to get you to give other people your resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second you step away from that is like, oh, but that's also like a thing Bitcoin kind of does to some people. But I still see people, a lot of people like, oh yeah, there'll be signs when Bitcoin hits big, I'm going to have a Lamborghini or whatever. I'm just like, I don't think you quite realize what that means. And when people picture like a Bitcoin standard, we talked about this in the past. I go, what does the world look like on a Bitcoin standard? I go, it's not going to look like you got a new cell phone every year. It's not going to look like you have fast fashion. It's because it can't. That world can't exist. That is a fiat world. All those things are fiat comforts, and they're all designed with the sole solitary purpose of extracting maximum resources from you. So if you want to live in a fiat world but have Bitcoin be the unit of count, I go, that's not a realistic proposition. That's a sort of a false hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
It requires a very different level of reflection on what it means to be in a fiat system, I think. So I'm hopeful that more Bitcoiners see that. And yet I also recognize, like, most people, like, I don't know anybody that didn't grow up in a fiat system, right? Actually, that's not true. I know one guy that did. He grew up in a little hippie commune in Santa Monica Canyon where these people had been squatting for like 50 years, and he had a very, very, very different take on how to live life and what everything looks like and what it meant to consume things or not consume things. And he was such a like an amazing human being, just to watch how he operated in the world, because it was very, very different than, even after I had gone through all my little changes, I was still like, oh my God, I'm still kind of hung up on this fiat shit, because this guy's living that life like free of it 100%. Like, he was born free of it. He existed his entire adult life free from it. And he's now integrating himself into the fiat world because that's what reality dictates, right? Like, you don't get to escape sovereignty or sovereign rule. But the way he does it is very different. Like, he was a guy who in 2000 and what was it, 2016 maybe? I can't remember when I was living in Santa Monica, but he was a guy who had a landline that he was getting off like the budget landline system and didn't have a cell phone. So what do you do if someone needs to get a hold of you? Well, they can leave a message on my answering machine. I was like, that's crazy, dude. Like, that's so incredible. But he was completely and perfectly happy to do that, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't going around buying like new furniture. He wasn't doing all this crazy shit. And he was living like this really sort of neat, like, existence within a fiat constraint, So,
Mm-hmm.
but it made me reflect a lot. Like, what do I really value here? Like, to this day, I'm so thrilled with my little Prius. I'm just like, I love this thing, right? If you had asked me that same question, would you ever drive a Prius 15 years ago? Fuck no. Even after all my big shifts and changes and adoption of Bitcoin, fuck no. I want a truck. I want a BMW. I want this. I still would have been hung up on like the fiat trappings of peacocking and. But I don't now. It actually gives me more joy, and I'm still mired in the fiat world, right? Like, I still buy fiat shit. I still do fiat things because you have to, because we're part of a fiat system. And like, imagining yourself escaping from that, like, the one guy I've seen on Twitter that's actually done that is 100 Acres Ranch guy, who's out.
Mm-hmm.
He's legit doing the thing. Like, I'm not on. You take your fiat and fuck yourself, right? Like, he's not going to the grocery store. Well, I mean, maybe he's going to the grocery store. I don't know,
Yeah.
but until you get Amish, you're still kind of like you're still in the matrix on some level. So
Yeah. And there's little things that people might haven't not really even think about that you grapple with when, like this time of year, it's a good reflective season change time to do it when people go out, they go hunting or they go
mm,
camping. And for some people, that means all the trappings of stuff they bring with them and it's luxury glamping. But I mean, a lot of people I know, it's that opportunity time to detach, unplug, not have that shower every day, or if you do, stay hygienic, you're doing that differently. You think about what 100 Acres Ranch is doing out there in his acreage, and the simple things, your food, your refrigeration, your showering, just brushing your teeth in the morning. All of that is fundamentally functional for him and yet different.
Mm-hmm.
People who conceptually could say, yeah, I could simplify my life, I could be Spartan, and yet you kind of have no idea what that might really be if it
Right.
was something quite sustainable or minimalist, not just like, oh, I uh, forgo this or that a little bit. It's more like, no, fundamentally,
Right.
um, if you imagine a great realignment being something much different but much sustainable, the things that we take for granted now that are effectively luxury but are normal, if some of that went away, that would be a hard shift for a lot of people. It would throw people's mental illness or mental health off. Um,
Short
and
term. Yeah.
and how long have we had, say, the ability to text anyone we want at any time, be accessible anytime, whatever, whatever? I mean, what, 10, 20 years, maybe? It's like, well, how did people exist before that? They didn't worry about it.
Right.
Their time preference was naturally different. You knew that, when you got back to the phone, you'd catch up or whatever. But when you were off doing things, you were unplugged. And you actually had that space in your mind as well, instead of like catching up on this or getting a dopamine hit there or ding. Oh, this is cool. Just send, share, click. I'm connected.
Right.
Um, that is so new. And I don't know where it's going in our human psyche, in the future, but it's addictive too. And so
By
it's
design.
almost, yeah, it causes insecurity if people don't have that umbilical cord hooked in their brain all the time, where they're connected on that level constantly. Um, I mean, it'd be quite a practice for a part of the day, one day a week, you put your phone somewhere where it's not going to bug you and you go do something away, and you'll find yourself like needing a hit, like, oh, I need to check something, or oh, well, I could just look that up, or well, what if someone had to text me? It's hard to let go of, but all that constantly kind of interferes with your own maybe historically natural state of humans reflecting on what they're perceiving.
Yeah.
So instead of like thinking about what they perceive, it's more like perceiving what they think,
Right.
taking reality in as at its fundamental base.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the entire essence of the fiat system requires you to engage in cognitive dissonance. Every single person in the world that is subject to sovereign authority has to go through the process of sovereign or cognitive dissonance and then acceptance of slavery. And it occurs in most people when they're 4 or 5 years old, I think, right? Because most people go, hey, wait a minute, how come I have to do this? Whatever it is, right? How come I have to pay this? How come I only get this for this? Why is this allowed? Why is this fair? And anybody can recognize that, like, the idea that some people get everything and you get almost nothing is not fair, right? Like, it's fundamentally not fair. And they go, what makes this okay? Well, that's just the system you're in. Why do I have to pay a tax? Like, wait a minute, isn't this my thing? Nope. Like Louis C.K. used to do a great bit where he would talk about playing Monopoly with your kids. And he goes, it's a great game to play with the kids because it lets them see real quick, like, what the reality of their situation is. Because, it's not like Chutes and Ladders or something where it's like, I get to go down the slide. It's like, okay, well, now you landed here, so I get to take everything that you have, and they just immediately go like, wait a minute, hey, that's not cool. I don't like that you can just take everything I have because of a random roll. Like, that's
And you
not cool.
notice in the end game of Monopoly, if you're not doing well, it's a blessing to just get hooked up and go to jail.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my gosh, there's all these hotels coming up. Oh God, oh God. And like early game, oh, I'm in jail, I'm in timeout for a while. Darn it, I can't hustle harder.
Right.
And then towards the end game, if you're losing, it's like, oh, I'm in jail.
Thank God. Yeah.
What a parallel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Well, there was a neat experiment that someone did where they artificially gave people an advantage in Monopoly. Like, they started off players with like double the money of everyone else, right?
I
And they
heard about
showed them, yeah, they go, here, You get to start with $200. Everyone else starts with $50. And they go, okay. And by the end of the game, these people were obviously doing way better, and they all attributed it to their own thing. They get
Yeah.
big, they get cocky, they'd get all loud, they go, ha ha ha, I've got every single person that played the game, even though they knew for a fact that they started off on third base.
They were born on third base.
Yeah, they were literally born on third base right in front of their face, unmistakably, and every one of them adopted this idea of like, well, it's because I'm better than you that I'm doing so well.
I rolled the dice better.
Yeah, I rolled the dice better. I just made better decisions, and they adopt all the same traits that you see amongst the wealthy in the United States, right? So it's kind of funny and illuminating in a way, but it also speaks to the kind of the depth of the rot that is in the fiat system, right? Because it corrupts you from day one. And the second you become aware of how unfair it is and you just agree to do it anyway, is the moment that you sacrifice your yourself to the state. And people do it very, very, very early on, and they accept, okay, I'm a farm animal, and they rage against it. They get mad about it. They, complain about it on Twitter, and then they keep doing it anyway. So you go, well, uh, until you can fix that problem in your head, until you can reconcile that, or at least admit that you are in that situation, you can't ever change your circumstance, right? And Bitcoin is one of those ways where you can. I think a lot of people want to retain the controls they get from fiat, or the sense of control they get from fiat, and claim that they're breaking free from fiat, right? And I think there's a next level to that where you go, well, I am not only doing that, but I'm also recognizing that I'm still subject to it no matter what.
Yeah.
And there's no escaping it. Like, as long as we exist in a competitive system, there's no escaping sovereignty. Like, it cannot happen. You cannot, there is no possible way to create a competitive system that doesn't involve someone setting rules about how that competition takes place. It just doesn't, it's impossible. There's a reason why hunter gatherers don't have competitive societies. There's a reason why every agricultural society has competitive societies. And I attribute a lot of it to the myth around like where money comes from. Because to this day, I see super smart people like Jack Mahler's just the other day. I was like, money solved the problem of barter. I go, no, it didn't. That's a fucking lie, dude. That's just not true. And but people would just go, yeah, money fixed barter. Now so now we have perfect money. I'm like, it's not perfect money in the way you're thinking about it, because perfect money is that which is money is designed to extract from you. It's not there to help facilitate trade. Trade comes so you can pay your tax. Like, you have to facilitate a trade game, or else you can't find any way to pay your tax, right? Like, if you have no way to grow vegetables, if you don't have land or something like that, you need to figure out some other way to get money so you can pay your tax. So trade evolves from tax, not from money, from barter to money to people just naturally want to trade with each other. And that's how it's like, that's not how the system evolved. It's completely backwards to what the actual fundamental reality is. So, and I would just say, like, because the second I say that, people go, "But people have always traded. Blah, 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 Indians trade." And blah. I go, yeah, but it's different. It's a different sort of thing. Like, me and you trade, right? Like, if me and you go to dinner right now, and I say pass the salt, that's a trade. That's a trade of your labor for my time, and et cetera. Blah blah blah. We don't sit there and go like, well, okay, well, how much are you going to give me to pass the salt? It's just a voluntary exchange, because it's a human reciprocity thing, right? But that's how hunter gatherers trade. They don't sit there and go, well, I gave you a lemon last week, so you owe me 3 mangoes this week. And like, they don't look at the world that way. It's a fundamentally different thing. It's called sharing. It's not called trading, right? So formalized trade systems and economies and things like that develop not because of some natural evolution of like sharing. They evolve because there is a need to facilitate that trade to accomplish things like paying a tax, which all societies have implemented on some level somewhere, because every sovereign does that, from the Egyptians to the European Christians to the Ming dynasties and all those people. They all implement a tax for a reason, because that's how they became sovereign to begin with, is they extract resources from the people below them. So
Yeah, and we talked a lot about that last week. How the nature of origins of money and bartering, sharing versus actual tax reasons for having fiat monies. And, as the national debt grows and grows ridiculously, or the government spending grows and grows insanely, sort of like something that Bukele said over a year ago, I think now, but basically the whole idea of taxation and paying tax, as opposed to the idea that, is this funding this? Does it even cover the interest on the debt anymore? No. So
Right.
what does taxation become? It's like a humiliation ritual, or a reminder that you know who's in charge and what you earn is not yours. It's like that farmed training versus an actual economy.
Well, an actual economy can't exist because the actual economy is predicated on the tax, right? So you take away the taxing authority, and then the economic thing changes dramatically, right? Like people go, oh, we just have a no government. You go, all right, good luck with that. Like that, you can go do that right now in Somalia. You can go set up your little fucking libertarian, anarchist, whatever, anarcho-capitalist utopia in Somalia right now, and you're going to get shot full of holes within about a week. So good luck with
Yeah.
that. It's like there's a reason why gangs group up, and there's a reason why these economies formulate, and it's not because of just some natural desire to freely trade amongst each other and have like laissez-faire, we all get along, and I make potatoes and you make shoes, and we're going to trade this little thing in between to make it fair so I can get the right amount of potatoes for the right amount of shoes. Like that's all just fucking nonsense, dude. It's a
Yeah.
fiction. It's all a fiction.
Like, what kind of a co-op healthy community sustains like a freeway system, or a large water system, sewage system,
Doesn't happen, dude.
you
It
know,
does not happen. It
it's,
cannot happen.
yeah. Um, that's where the great realignment as a transition, even as a huge amount could get shifted and fixed, at its core, there would have to be governance that manages certain large aspects of a modern society. I driving to Seattle from my home, just driving here. There were areas of the road that were steadily rough, or that you got to get up and over Snoqualmie Pass, and the freeze and thaw that road goes through, and the amount of traffic going, and the rock falls, and all this stuff. That's some major infrastructure to maintain there.
Mm-hmm.
If that's shut down, we're back to like, you know, what, going to take you a week to get from
Well, you got to drive the 5 then, don't you? So good
yeah,
luck
right.
with that.
Yeah, so anyway, but no, like trying to imagine that level of great realignment where, okay, there's core things that societies need to function, and at large scales. um, I think of the based stuff. Now that's a far cry from a lot of the hijinks that governments play with their money when they're expanding their power and control abroad, or whatever they're doing. But still, yeah, we can't imagine a fantasy world where like we'll just do it ourselves. It's like,
Well, the problem is like you don't get to have all the trappings of a fiat life without fiat, right? Like the very idea that you get to retain all of the, because to say that fiat has no benefits is to ignore visible reality, right? Like you can just look around and go like, hey, yeah, this is better than it was 100 years ago. Like, I mean, on some level, on some like on Maslow's hierarchy, at the very base of that, you kind of go, yeah, well, most of my needs are pretty well taken care of. Like, it's not perfect, but yeah, like I'm relatively safe. I'm relatively fed. I'm relatively this. I'm relatively that. So to say, well, I just want to retain all of the benefit that we got. It's the same thing as the communists. They go, well, we just want to have all the benefits of capitalism without the capitalism part. You go, well, how's that work out? Well, it means we have to slaughter about 20 or 30 million of our own people, and then it never works out that way. And then all the power accrues to the people at the top, just like in a capitalist society. So sorry about that, but we were trying real hard to make it so you got to keep all the benefits of capitalism without actually having the capitalism part, but it doesn't work, right? So the idea that you're going to get all the benefits of fiat money without actually having the fiat money part is just as much of a fantasy. It's just as much of like a yeah, that doesn't work that way, dude. So my core thesis is, well, kind of a neat road between those two is like make it so the fiat system is more closely aligned with human thriving than more closely aligned with maximum extraction, right? And that is kind of an optimal outcome, at least in the short term, until you have some sort of great realignment of everybody's psyche where everyone gets up to about 150 IQ and they all realize like all the traumas they've experienced is part of the reason why the world is all fucked up, and how easy it is to be manipulated as a person, how easy it is to co-opt your biochemical responses to things. As soon as everybody wakes up to that and then can look around and go, hey, we're all humans, we're all here together and we're all trying to work towards a common good, then you have some form of system that has to be imposed on top of you, or you go back to hunting and gathering. And the planet can sustain about 2 million people that way, or 20 million people that way, or 100 million people that way. After that, the resources get extracted too quickly and then everyone else dies. So you go, well, that's not a great outcome either. So how do you navigate between the two? You go, well, some of the fiat stuff has to stay. Like it can't go away because that's the system we made and that's the system everyone knows and that's the system we're in. How can you make it so the fiat system doesn't just maximally extract value from you until it collapses? Well, you create this neat protocol that makes it so it doesn't have to collapse and changes incentives around so it makes it more about saving. And all the Austrian stuff, save first, then spend, right, suddenly becomes viable because right now you're incentivized to spend first and don't worry about saving, right? Spend first to capture more is the sort of thing right now. So if you want those outcomes, if you want the Austrian dream to come alive, it doesn't come from replacing fiat. Like it can't, like, because fiat is the thing that drives sovereigns. Taxation drives sovereigns. And if they're not imposing a tax on you, someone else will, and they may not do it as well as your current sovereign is doing for you right now. So the best you can hope for, in my opinion, is to reorient the sovereign to be more pro-human. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Thinking of Monopoly, rule number 11. What if the bank runs out of money? Um, the bank does not go bankrupt if it runs out of money. The bank never goes bankrupt. I
Yeah.
I I had this monopoly rule up there, um, but yes, basically Bitcoin can heal a system where, well, we need more, we need to spend more. The voters demanded it, or we just want to do stuff. Print more money. Print.
Yep.
Um,
Well, I mean that there is merit to that idea because a lot of the things that we take for granted now, like cell phones and this and that, that's all from debt, right? That all is created from debt. So people go, we need to get rid of the debt. I go, then you collapse every economy. Like, and then what do you think the world looks like if all economies collapse simultaneously? You think that's going to be a utopia? Like that is the mass destruction chaos, and most aren't going to survive, and especially people in the West because we're fat and fucking lazy. So the guys that have been growing up hard to begin with are going to be the ones that thrive in that situation, not us. So yeah, man, like it's people just I don't think they can see beyond their immediate ideas, right? Is kind of my core thesis on all of this stuff. I think people get really hung up on things, on short-termist ideals, and overlook all the potential downstream effects of what trying to manifest short-term simple solutions looks like. And there's a great quote that says, for every complex problem, there is a simple solution that is neat, elegant, and wrong. And that's precisely what, smash the central bank. You go, that's a neat, simple, elegant solution that's wrong. It's just not going to work out the way you think. If you want to go back to being ruled by a warlord, go that way because and there's no shortage of examples. Like you don't have to look very far to go, what happens when a banking system collapses? Does everyone get together and kumbaya love and just trade their fucking watermelons with each other? And no, the first thing that happens is a bunch of strongmen come up and seize power. Period. Like straight up. Like there's no other outcome that comes from that. So the idea that this time will be different, I think, is very uniquely naive and sort of almost childish, But
and at the same time, it's different because we've never had a rule like Bitcoin injected And if we're lucky, the great realignment could be that we don't know, most people, we don't know why things started to get better, but they're just started to get better. And
Right.
if we're less lucky, it could be the great realignment is a lot of kind of the great reconciliation where, oh, some things broke harshly, or
If
I
it
don't
goes
know.
that way, if it goes that direction, it's not a realignment. It's just a collapse. It becomes very ugly. If Bitcoin fails as a protocol, as an idea, uh, then everything then fiat always ends the same way. Like there's no escaping the next step, right? Which is why I'm so passionate about people running nodes and making sure that Bitcoin doesn't fail as a protocol, because the alternative is not pretty and most people won't like it. People that think they're prepared for it or not, people that are planning for it or hoping for it or not, do grossly underestimate what that world looks like. And if they are ever confronted with it, they will not appreciate it at all. They will always be longing for the days when they had a sovereign and a fiat system. I guarantee it. Like it's unmistakable because there's every single historical episode where fiat collapses, that's what happens. So the one saving grace we have now is that there is a property that people can't steal. And if people get behind that idea, and if we get just lucky enough, we might thread that needle and go, hey, we got to the other side where things are getting better. But that's not a foregone conclusion. And right now, watching people squabble and talk about fucking relay policy and shit like that and fracturing a very delicate and fragile network to begin with, I go, that is so anti-human. I can't even begin to put words to it. So the the best thing you can do as a Bitcoiner is run a node, join that network, defend that network, because the alternative is fiat chaos, and we have a very narrow window to avoid fiat chaos, and we have a very rare, precious, and very special asset that can help us avoid fiat chaos. But not if you're hoping for fiat chaos, and not if you're creating more chaos in the thing that might prevent the fiat chaos from happening. So
Yeah.
if you're listening, for the love of God, run a node, join the network, defend the network, be part of the network, participate in the network, because hodling Bitcoin without running a node is leeching, essentially. And it's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to become co-opted in the fiat system, and it's just going to be another thing in fiat. And it's going to be bank coin. And when it's bank coin, then the rest of the shit kind of goes out the window. And then you get to watch what happens when fiat collapses around you. So it gets ugly.
Yeah.
So run a node, please.
Yeah, a lot of folks. I've been seeing a lot more lately too. Stacy on the Bitcoin Army, and I've seen other people. Maybe they've been hearing it or part of the movement, but there is a push to get the people motivated out there. Like, hey, are you not running a node? Like, you're all into Bitcoin. You hear a lot of people that are all into Bitcoin, but it's like, okay, are you running a node? If not, do something. Maybe start easy, start basic, download it, run it, look at it. But there is a push to grow the nodes,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I'm
God bless the Bitcoin Army for that. Like, I absolutely love that. I was on Spaces with them, and then it was a few days later they put out a post, and I don't know if they'd post about it prior to my being on there or not. And it kind of doesn't matter if I was the influence or not. The fact that they put it out, I said that was the best tweet I've ever seen in my life, because it wasn't about like do this, do that, blah blah blah. It was about, hey, our goal, we have a goal, 2,100 new nodes. I go, fucking awesome. That is amazing. If every single influential person in the space had a goal of increasing node counts, then I would have a lot more faith in the influential set of Bitcoin. Unfortunately, what I see a lot of Bitcoin influencers or whatever doing right now is squabbling about nonsense, and that's not going to help anybody long term. So yeah, the Bitcoin Army is great just because of that, you know.
yeah,
And if they actually manifest it, I go, man, you guys have done more for humanity than probably the last 20 Nobel laureates. Like, you're actually doing something that can realistically change humanity for the better. And that's all it takes, man. Go get a fucking Start9, go get a used computer, go download fucking Core, download Knots. I don't give a shit. Just put a node out there and have it listening and accepting transactions and validating those transactions, period. And just ignore all this fucking noise about, non-consensus changes having some sort of catastrophic effect on the network. It's like there's rules and there's policies, and rules are enforceable, policies are not. So just keep it at that. Like if you want to, like if you want to be the guy who's putting a Black Lives Matter sign on your fucking thing and saying, hey, I'm fighting racism by putting this fucking sign out, go nuts. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But do something meaningful in between, right? So,
Yeah.
And the meaningful thing is to spin up a node, period. Full stop, 100%,
Yeah, I hope that I don't like the divisive nature of Bitcoin discussion, but if I'm to be optimistic about it, maybe it's getting people thinking about it. Like, hey, if you care, whatever side you're on, if you seem to care, then run a node. And I mean, people focus on, okay, number go up, or hash rate go up. Hash rate hit a zeta hash. Awesome. Wow, there's a lot of mining going on. Nodes, slow. I mean, growing, but slow. And you don't hear about node count almost ever. But people are focused on the fiat value or maybe the hash rate and economic stuff. But the nodes are where it's at. The nodes are the protocol, functioning more healthily.
Yeah. Run a node.
Run a node.
For the love of God, run a node. If you care about humanity, if you care about making the world a better place, if you care about number go up, if you care about all these kind of things, run a fucking node. Because if you're not running a node, you're just sitting there being a fiat baboon, just like every other fiat baboon. So pretty pleased with sugar on top. Run a node. It's not that hard.
Yeah. A couple of core principles that, MicroSeed believes in: take self-custody and run a node.
Yeah. I'd rather you save the money on a MicroSeed and spin up a node than buy a fucking MicroSeed. 100%. Like, if I could give away MicroSeeds and then just convince people to take all that money and run a node, I would. So, maybe if number go up enough, I can do that. But
someday MicroSeed can come with its own node.
Yeah, I would love it. I mean, I wish there was more innovation in that space. I wish there was more push towards that space. And maybe MicroSeed can be one of those companies that's pushing innovation in that space. I don't know. But right now, like you said, self-custody, run a node. Those are the only two things we care about. Like the rest of it is just fucking noise, like 100%. Number go up, noise. Fucking relay policy, noise. It's all noise. The most important thing you can do, take self-custody, run a node. Please.
Yeah. Not about the fiat. It's about the values. Why are you into Bitcoin? It's hopefully, however you joined, stay for the revolution. So,
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, it's been a good hour plus. So, I think it's been a good episode. We talked about knowing thyself. Can you ever? I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, you can approach yourself even as you change as a person, but I think Bitcoin encourages people to do so well because you're grappling with the important things. Your values. What are your values? I've had to think about that. Oh, and Travis joins us.
Now Travis shows up. That's highly suspicious timing, sir. Highly suspicious. I would say you may never know thyself, but you can certainly enable the ability to know what others think of you. And that's dropping the ego and accepting feedback. So, yeah.
Radical acceptance. And now I'm sure Travis has experienced this. For me, the biggest exercise I've had in this realm where I get whatever, my ego gets involved, is with family, with sometimes my parents. I mean, I've sort of managed that growing up with them, but like when you have a wife, and it's your classic, interactions you might have with a significant other where a guy's got his goals and values and communication style and a gal has hers, and then something goes up and it could be some innocuous thing and it comes to a collision because to the extent that me as a man has to practice this stuff, man, I gotta stop, let go of my ego, do the radical acceptance thing where I'm listening, I'm hearing and reflecting first, and then maybe um, uh, you work it out. But I mean, you can, and it takes personal work. I saw a funny comedy video thing here. Oh, let's see if Travis wants to join briefly. We're almost done here, but Travis could say hi. I saw a funny
Hi,
video.
Travis.
Um, there was a comedian on.
Hello.
He's in a nondescript situation at the moment. He can speak though, out in the woods still. Um, so the comedian had a grid where he says, um, "Me and my wife," in the topic. So whatever the topic is, if we're both right, so like so me and my wife Karen. Um, if Bob is right and Karen is right, then Karen was right. Um, if Bob was wrong and Karen were wrong, well,
Karen is right.
Karen was right. if um, if Bob is wrong and Karen is right, Karen's right. If Bob was right but Karen was wrong,
Karen
um,
is right. Yeah.
Karen, yeah. So the gist of it being that as a man, oftentimes you'll think like, no, I've thought about this. I know. Um, I can explain this. If I mansplain enough, you'll get it, right? And, you got to stop and let go of the control sometimes. So we all go through that.
Well, I can report with 100% certainty that that is all a function of a lack of listening ability, probably on both parts. So, the funny thing about actually listening and actually hearing somebody and just actually repeating their words back to them is that suddenly all of the nonsensical things that are coming out of the other side's mouth start sounding a lot more nonsensical, and it's very, very, very frustrating to the half of humanity that is very accustomed to emotionally manipulating conversations. And they learn this skill very, very early on. And then they will reroute discussions based on the fact that you're not really listening to what they're saying to begin with. And that's how you end up talking about, like, you can start off with, like, hey, how come you left the cup on the counter instead of in the sink? And at the end of it, you're talking about why you always argue with my mom, and you're just like, what the fuck? We were talking about a cup and now we're talking about what? How did we get here? That's because it is very easy to reroute somebody who's not listening, who's not actually listening to the words that are being said. And if you're actually listening to the words that are being said, then it's very easy to key in on the time when they start shifting the conversation away. And you go, wait a minute, what you're saying now is different than what we were just talking about. Can we please go back to that? And that becomes very frustrating because it cuts off all the avenues for manipulating a conversation in a direction they want versus actually dealing with the problem that they broached to begin with. And so you can circumvent a lot of the nonsense. And most of the time, what that's going to end up with is someone throwing a tantrum. They'll just tantrum their way out of it because you've actually heard what they say. And so it eliminates the ability to manipulate. It fosters the ability to, like, well, if you want to communicate, you need to stay on topic, because I'm actually listening to what you're saying. But also listening also allows you to respond appropriately, which also cuts off all the avenues for shifting into something else. So that's the key. It's I mean, I like what you said, and when I hear it, there's a little part of me. It's like, yeah, and there's that aspect of it of, like, if you're in that situation where you feel like you need to be doing that kind of stuff, it sounds like you're probably not hearing what they're saying. Because if you heard what they were saying, chances are good you'd be able to avoid a lot of that stuff.
Right.
Or at least
avoid it in the first place.
well, you get a lot more tools to kind of go, like, oh, I see where this is going now. Like,
Yeah.
and so the understanding becomes a lot easier. But like I said, it's very frustrating for the other side who's very accustomed to just wrangling conversations in a way that is very unclear to you because you don't speak the emotional language that they do. And absent the ability to navigate their emotional space the same way, because their female friends get it and they hear the emotion more than they hear what the words are saying. So you being a more logical type man type person, you hear the words, and then the words get shifted somehow, and then the emotion comes in, which confuses you even further, and then you're in this mess. So there's a lot more subtlety in female communication, but it's also very directive. And so the way females navigate it is through emotional responses. The way men deal with it is to get bamboozled and flummoxed until they end up upside down and don't know where they are or why. And they just go, okay, whatever, you're right, I get it. And that makes them even more mad. So it's a trick, dude. I'm telling you.
It's a trap. Yeah,
it's always a trap. It's always a trap if you're not listening. It's a easy to avoid trap if you actually hear what they're saying. So that's my 2 cents for the day. What do you think, Travis? I wasn't listening.
You guys talking about what? I heard a thing yesterday where it in so many areas of communication, it's not what you're saying, it's how you make them feel. And that is, a lot of the communication is nonverbal, and you could be saying all kinds of anything, but it's how you're doing that and how they're feeling with the experience. I had to stop and imagine once when my wife and I were discussing things, and I was like, what would it be like to be married to me if I was really able to remove myself and look at myself and how I sort of subconsciously just have my resting pissed face or whatever, I'm not even thinking about it. I might be on edge, I guess, if daddy's a serious guy or, whatever. So I've had to stop and do that reflection. So,
yeah.
Well, Travis, any good last words before we wrap up?
I don't even think he's there anymore, dude.
I will say that nothing good will come from my opinion on this matter.
Yes, it will. It'll be great. We'll clip it.
We're here to listen.
We're here to listen.
I'm actually here to listen to you guys.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that'll be good.
Note, that's the end of the show. So
you've made it for the end of the show. So
yeah. Good to see you, Travis.
We'll end this and you can linger, we can chat.
Yeah.
All right. See y'all. Good episode.